Yeah, too many colors. Peace. I wanted to say, got the hat yesterday. As you can see it, specially made. Kemet Ray Ma'at, which means Black Sun Justice. So I want to thank you for that. And my wife, she wanted to say something too.
My hat was specially made as well, and it means first to step out of the waters of noon. And I want to say thank you to my aunt forever. Very nice.
Sister Andrea Brunette is in a place to be. How you doing, Senate?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
So you have something to show us today?
Yes, I went on to the product line and I bought 3 shirts and I just wanted to show you all what I got.
Oh, let's see.
Okay, so this is the first one. This is the
Ah, the Ankh shirt.
the Ankh shirt. I got it in black and gold, but I think I'm gonna go and get a blue one too.
All right.
Okay, so that's the first one.
All
And
right.
then
The Ma'at. Oh, it looks
this
good in
I don't
blue.
yeah,
All
I don't know.
right.
Yeah, this is the Ma'at one.
Oh, that's
I
what's
don't know if you
up.
can see.
Yeah, we see it. We
I'm
see
trying.
it.
Can you see it?
Nice bright
And
color, you know.
yeah, I love this. I love this color. I love it. And then the piece de la resistance is my favorite
I'm the best to
one.
be
I'm
tonight.
the best of me tonight. Yeah.
That's what's up. I'm the
There's
best
that
to
on
be
the sleeve
tonight.
too.
Even on the sleeve.
Tonight.
All right.
Even on the
Tonight.
sleeve. I had it. Yeah,
All right.
this is the lick right here. So I'll be wearing that on
Oh,
your next live. I will have this one on.
all right. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. All right.
So
Well, thank you.
that's the 3 ones I got.
Thank you very
Love
much
them.
for your support. It's appreciated. I'm glad that you like the products.
You're welcome. You're
All
welcome.
right.
And we'll see you on the next live stream.
All right. See you soon, sister. Peace.
Okay.
Hotel.
All right.
Okay, I hope you can see this. Civilization started with agriculture. Custom made shirt from my aunt forever, Shaka Indugu. Civilization started with agriculture. This is Curse of Hammurabi, Shaka Indugu, who I support. Civilization started with agriculture.
Hey, this is my unboxing video that I'm doing for the product I bought from my Out Forever's channel. I bought the coffee mug, and here it is. Sorry there's a glare from the screen, but lots of bold, crisp, beautiful colors, inside and out, high quality ceramic. I absolutely love it. So y'all go check out his website. It's got a lot of fun, fresh designs. And cheers to you, Shaka, and all of your endeavors. Peace.
All right. Hey, brother Donnie Williams. See, you got your mate.
Yeah, yeah. What's up, Shaka? I was gonna do just I know it's a serious topic, but I was gonna do a little
No, I appreciate that, bro. I'm
unboxing.
glad.
So
I'm glad. Yeah, yeah. Live
yeah.
unboxing. Bro, you don't mind if I use this excerpt, like as a clip, my
No,
intro?
no,
Oh,
it's all
thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for those who wonder, I'm gonna share the link. All right, that's lovely.
Yeah, I got the Heather Gray. Oh man, yeah.
Oh, you got the Kemet shirt as well. Okay.
Yeah, can you? I didn't know it had that on the back
In the
though.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. That's what's up,
That's
man.
lovely. Oh, thank you. I
So
appreciate that.
yeah. So just letting you know, just coming through, showing some support real quick, man. I'm about to get back into this Netflix film, so just wanted to say peace, man, and thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, brother.
Okay, all right.
Our sister RP is in the place to be. What's up, sister?
E.T. Sen E. How you doing?
E.T. Senate E. I'm doing Nefer.
Oh, great. Well, I got it today. I was thinking it was coming from France, but then I did the tracking and it was outside actually when I went to check, and here it is.
Oh, that's what's up. It's just like my hat. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Let me do the solo layout. There it is, brothers and sisters. That's
Yeah.
what's up.
I really like this. Yeah, so I have an after school program that I help facilitate. And I'm going to wear this because we're going to start talking about coding. So I'm going to
Okay.
use this as an introduction because this is a code. It's
Mm.
ancient code, but it's still a code. And then we're going to be able to, demonstrate. I'll be able to demonstrate to them the meanings inside each of the, glyphs and stuff. So, but yeah, I was looking online and I was like, this is actually like really good designs, So as soon as I get some more, extra money, I'm gonna get the matching hat and I want to get a Ma'at shirt. But I really like the Kemet one to start with. Yeah, so it's really good. And the prices ain't bad either, so
Dang, my mic was on. Lucky I didn't say anything crazy. Check the sound. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Sounds good on my end. Hotep Senu, Hena Senut, E.T. Ren-E, Shakandugu Kemet. I hope you're doing well. The title of this live stream is Scholars Invented the Text of the Bible. I didn't say it. I'm going to show you who said it. I'm discovering I didn't know that dude had so. But those are allegations. No charge, no sentencing, or let's say conviction. But let's first see who's in the place to be. Donnie Williams is in the place to be. He wrote "At To Real Real." I don't see To Real Real, so can you tell me what's happening? Did you see him earlier? I don't think that tagging people in the chat will get them a notification. But in the timeline, yes, it surely does. In the title, it surely does. But who knows, maybe it works on the chat. If it's the case, let me know. V Bennett is in the place to be. Andrea Burnett is in the place to be. This stream is only for supporters. I mean, the stream's, no. Let me rephrase this. This stream is for everybody. The chat is open to supporters only. If you want to join, you have the link. Let's do the fair use disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for purposes such as criticism, common news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Okay. I'm about to play an excerpt where Dr. Richard Carrier speaks. Just today, I found out, that's why, I took a little bit of time because I was like, what the heck? So, that's his wiki. What was of interest to me is his credentials. 2008, Carrier received a doctorate in ancient history from Columbia University, where he studied the history of science and antiquity. His thesis was entitled Attitudes Towards a Natural Philosopher in the Early Roman Empire, 100 BC to 313 AD. He has published several articles and chapters in books on the subject of history and philosophy. Now, what surprised me, I thought I didn't know, but announcing their divorce, Carrier revealed that he is polyamorous. I think it's a euphemism for polygamous. But then again, polygamous means, you're married to several people, so several women. Polyamory is a practice or desire for romantic relationships with more than one partner at the same time, with the informed consent of all partners involved. People who identify as polyamorous believe in open relationships with a conscientious management of jealousy and reject the view that sexual or blah 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 blah. And that after informing his wife of his extramarital affairs, the last 2 years of their marriage had been an open relationship. But anyway, what surprised me, where is it written? Okay. There it is. Well, actually, it's right after. I never knew that. Oh, snap. He also authored a regular column on the website Free Thought Blogs. This was suspended in 2016 amid allegations of sexual misconduct. Carrier has frequently. Oh, that's something else. Okay, so here you do have this. It's the actual website, freethoughtblogs.com, and here it says, I don't see any date here. One of our writers, Richard Carrier, has been banned from Skepticon for his repeated boundary-pushing behavior. This is obviously a serious accusation, and we've been investigating further. We now have several first-hand reports of persistent, obnoxious sexual behavior in defiance of specific requests that he sees. We believe his accusers. Here at Free Thought Blogs, we are sex positive, but we are also committed to the principle of consensual sexual behavior. We go further and beyond demanding that there always be consent. We also insist on respect for our partners. No means no. Not just because it's held as a dogmatic rule, but because it reflects a sincere appreciation of the autonomy of other people. We cannot tolerate violations of this essential principle. While Dr. Carrier has been a valued contributor to this network, we have to demand support of that principle in actions as well as words. After a review of the evidence so far, Richard Carrier's posting privileges have been suspended pending further evaluation, and all comments on his blog have been closed. If you wish to make a testimonial pro or con about Dr. Carrier, we can send them to me in confidence, who will consider all the evidence before making a final decision on this case. We also support Skepticon and their commitment to equality and justice. If you do too, donate. So that was news to me. He better wrote, wow, What a coincidence. We can see how they are handling it. They're taking it real serious. And we're not talking about rape or child molestation, because we've seen that with cases of rape and child molestation on the Rape OK House of Conscious Mess. Those guys are still invited. And Heru's in the place to be. So this came on my feed. It's an account entitled Lord Events. It has 109,000 subscribers. This video has been uploaded or streamed 4 months ago. I have the link in the chat. The video is entitled What Most Christians Don't Know About the New Testament, feat. Dr. Richard Carrier. What's on the menu, Brother Young Hero, is that quote. Scholars invented the text of the Bible. He said it. I didn't say it. A PhD said it.
So, you know, doing the work that you do, and obviously you've been involved now in, you know, a number of conversations with peers who perhaps approach Bible scholarship from a theistic standpoint, and indeed, you know, Bible apologists. What would you think, or what do you consider to be the most common misconceptions about the New Testament among Christians?
Especially among Christians generally, is the fact that
we're waiting for that cock to crow 3 times, by the way.
Yes,
but carry on.
Rant, by the way, they have a lot of chickens.
That's okay.
You might hear goats as well, so that's possible.
Okay.
But yeah, third crow. No, there's no third. There'll be more than 3.
Okay.
But yeah. That's funny that that comes across in the audio. So I think the most common is that we don't really have a text. Like there's this assumption that Christians have that there's a text of the Bible.
He said we don't really have a text. Let's continue.
It's 100% reliable and accurate and established, and that's what we base everything on. What they don't realize is that all Bible translations, even the King James, but especially more recent Bible translations, are translating from what's called a reconstructed text, which is that scholars
reconstructed text, those translations that we have, those English translations of the Bible, they come from reconstructed text.
Scholars look at hundreds of manuscripts which are filled with errors, and then they try using certain systematic
filled with errors
methodologies to reconstruct the earliest version that we can get at. And so, they follow certain rules as to how do you decide which thing is an error, which thing is original, and so on. And so they reconstruct the text. And so you get they
reconstruct the text of the Bible.
For example, the Allen and Allen edition, which is the one that I recommend in the course that we're talking about, which has all the Greek, but then underneath it, it has what's called an apparatus.
It has all the Greek, not all the Hebrew.
That's every page. You turn every page, and there's just tons of these where there's variant readings on the manuscripts, and they grade them. So they'll grade the reading that you see in the main text that they've decided on, and it's A, B, C, D are the grades, right? Anything below D doesn't get in, right? But if you look and you see like there's a D grade for something, that means they're really, really not at all confident in what they've chosen to put in the text, and then they put the alternatives that they know about in the apparatus so you can read them. And so the people don't know this. So that's a reconstructed text. There's no manuscript in the world that has that text. And
there is no manuscript in the world that has the text of the Bible. I've said similar in the last few years, but some of our people, they need to hear it from somebody of European descent that has some credentials in a particular field.
And yet that's the text we're using to translate the Bible, right? So the Bible is translated from a text that doesn't exist, essentially.
The Bible is translated from a text that doesn't exist.
We're using to translate the Bible, right? So the Bible is translated from a text that doesn't exist, essentially.
The Bible is translated from a text that doesn't exist, essentially.
It's a hypothetical.
When you say reconstructed text, I'm imagining, so, you know.
I just want to check the volume. Hold on. It's actually loud, so I'm going to try to speak not so loud. Let's continue.
You know, I've been to you know, the John Rylands Library in Manchester, and I've been to, I forget the name of it now, but there's a collection in Dublin of New Testament fragments. Right. And when you say reconstructed, are you referring to the fact that, you know, a lot of the earliest fragments that we have are, you know, fragments, and therefore you're having to kind of guess what the in-between words are that haven't been preserved for us? Is that what you're talking about when you're talking about reconstructing?
Not exactly, because we do have full Bibles, right? They start late, right? So we're talking 4th century and on by the time we get full Bibles. But you take like the 2 oldest Bibles we have, the Codex Sinaiticus and the Codex Vaticanus. They have tons of errors. So the reconstructed text that we're using today doesn't agree with either of those Bibles, right? So we've gone in and looked at hundreds of manuscripts and decided what readings are more likely to be correct and put it in there. But there is no, you can't go find a codex or a Bible anywhere in antiquity or the Middle Ages that contains the text that we're using, because we've built the text. It's scholars invented the text, essentially. They invented it.
We've built the text. Scholars invented the text, essentially. Dr. Richard Carrier said that scholars invented the text of the Bible. Let's hear it again.
Decided what readings are more likely to be correct and put it in there. But there is no, you can't go find a codex or a Bible anywhere in antiquity or the Middle Ages that contains the text that we're using, because we've built the text. It's scholars invented the text, essentially. They invented it based on like probability and logic and things. It's not just arbitrary. But nonetheless, it is a text that doesn't exist anywhere. Like there's no manuscript that contains it. So you can't say, well, we're going to rely on the oldest Bible. And it's like, well, then if you choose that, you're going to be choosing a Bible full of error that we all agree is full of errors. So you can't use that.
Full of errors. I and others told you about Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus. They are both written in Greek, and they are 4th century AD or CE, if you prefer.
So there's no translations generally that are based on any actual manuscript. It's all invented. And like I said, invented for reasons, but still, people don't know this. And they also don't know, and like I said, invented generally that are based on any actual manuscript. So you can't use that. So there's no translations generally that are based on any actual manuscript.
There's no translation based on any manuscript. So what?
It's all invented.
It's all invented.
And like I said, invented for reasons, but still, people don't know this. And they also don't know like how much error there is. Tremendous. And it was worth.
People don't know how many errors there is. It's tremendous.
First, earlier on, which is a bigger problem, because we know that Christians in the first 2 or 3 centuries were not professionals. They were just average Joes copying these manuscripts. So the manuscripts are not professional scribal work. So they're filled with kind of amateur mistakes. And they get professional later. So like late 3rd century into the 4th century, we start seeing professional scribal work where they're using the skills they had at that time to like try and stabilize the text and to make more reliable error checking and things like that. There's still.
Okay, so I'll share the link to this video You can see it in your own time. Now I want to skip to minute 14.
And when you're approaching the New Testament with the knowledge that you've accumulated, through your many years of studying this, let's take, there's the Gospels, there's Acts of the Apostles, and then you get the epistles, you get the letters of mostly Paul, and then various other apostles, although Paul wasn't one of the 12. And then you get sort of Revelation. Which of these documents do you kind of read with the most incredulity in terms of, this is sort of less to be trusted, whereas this probably was written by the person who it's thought of to have been written by?
Yeah, and that's another thing people often don't know. Half the letters of Paul in the New Testament are forgeries. That's the mainstream consensus.
Half of the letters of Paul in the New Testament are forgeries. The question was long, but I wanted to leave the question in full so that people understand there's nothing out of context.
A lot of good evidence establishing that he didn't write a lot of those letters, but others he did write.
Paul didn't write a lot of these letters.
But another thing is, like, the ones he did write, the versions we have aren't the originals because they're pastiches of multiple letters, right? So they have multiple endings, they have pieces inserted, stuff has been pulled out. So it was like we had a dossier of shorter letters that people crammed together to make the letters that we have today. So there's been editing that's beyond our access. It doesn't exist in any manuscripts. It predates all manuscripts. And this is another thing I talk about in the course, is that we now know that we can trace all manuscripts to an edition, a single New Testament edition that was published in the mid to late 2nd century. We have no manuscripts from any of the documents in the New Testament that predate that. So whatever changes that editor made are now going to be in all manuscripts. So we don't have any way to get behind the curtain of Oz on that to see what the documents looked like before they got collected into that edition. And so that's a big problem for this kind of thing. But what happens is the selection of which forgeries to put in, right? And then which pieces of letters to put in for the authentic letters. And then of course, how do you date forgeries? Like, that's hard to do. Like, we don't know when because they're fake. We don't know when they were written. We have guesses, decent estimates, but generally, yeah, you don't trust half the letters of Paul. And people can go on Wikipedia and there'll be lists of which letters are believed to be authentic and which ones aren't.
Harold wrote, don't let Shaka or any black man say what he's saying. Only then black people react. A lot of time when it's individuals of European descent, black folks will listen and value. Believe in the Bible is to be a true believer indeed. Believe it is not knowing. So that was the gist of what I wanted to share. But something else came on my feed, less extraordinary, because that's the first time I hear someone say that scholars invented the text of the Bible. And I think it's quite a strong citation, a strong quote, a strong quotation. Something else came on my feed and I was like, for real? I wasn't aware. You must have heard about D. Ehrman. He said he would not debate Richard Carrier because he didn't like Richard Carrier's tone. After Dr. Bart D. Ehrman wrote his book, Did Jesus Exist?, Dr. Carrier wrote a response in his blog and he went in. A lot of people would like to see those two debates. I'm sorry, those two individuals, those two scholars, those two doctors, those two PhDs debates, but it will probably never happen. But my feed, I was like, what? They finally did it? I didn't know. I'm going to check that out. You have the link here. It's entitled Carrier versus Urban Evidence for Crucifixions. And the YouTube channel is entitled Godless Engineer. Then it was clear that
say that primarily because, you know, I could see how there could be some confusion as to like why I didn't ask certain things or why I didn't do certain things or whatnot. And I'll try to.
Because what the thumbnail that I've seen was this. I was like, dang, they're both on the same panel, even though it's not like a usual debate setting. But he's actually playing a previous stream that he did with Dr. Ehrman, and then Dr. Carrier, makes observations and commentary. That's what happened. So I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't write the timestamp. Oh yeah, that was the first. That was the first part actually. The first question and the answer. So we're gonna have the question from that person, Godless Engineer, the answer of Dr. Bart Ehrman, and then we're gonna have the commentary of Dr. Carrier. So for the record, let's go.
Explain those. If anybody has questions, I love all of the super chats that we've gotten so far, and those are a lot of them have great questions in it, great comments for Rick. Today it's pretty much as long as we keep getting super chats, at the end we'll keep answering questions in a reasonable amount of time. So if y'all want to ask questions, please do send a super chat and we'll be able to get to you definitely. Okay, so right now, just so you know, we're skipping past the interpolation part, which was about the first 10 minutes or so, about 10 minutes. And so now we're getting into my specific question about the crucifixion, like and I'm going to be asking, like, what is the evidence for the crucifixion?
Yeah, and for the audience, like the interpolation part, or what you mean is that you asked him to sort of lay out the methodology by which we determine if the passage is interpolated or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Methodology and criteria is what I asked about.
And there is actually a lot of scholarship on that. So it is an interesting subject.
It definitely is. And I was genuinely interested in that. Like, I really wanted to know. But again, he was kind of teasing his talk, so he didn't really give a lot of information about it. But it's not like I don't know a lot of information about that topic in the first place. All right. So let's get to the interview here. So this is where I start asking him about the crucifixion. And you just tell me whenever you hear something that you want to talk about or stop, and I'll stop it, okay? Might be in the Gospels. And, you brought up the crucifixion, and I know that I've heard you talk on this before, and this is kind of one of the points that I've sort of disagreed with you on, is the crucifixion being like one of the, I guess, most well-attested facts about Jesus that we can state. Is that your position, or am I misremembering that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I think it's the position of just about every expert on the New Testament, is that the crucifixion of Jesus is, if you got to pick something about Jesus, there are a few things you can pick that are, as likely, that he was a Jewish teacher. He came from Galilee. He had followers. And that, so there are a list of things that virtually everybody agrees with, but the crucifixion is right. It's right there at the top, or maybe is the top.
Okay. I'm just kind of curious about how.
So if we have to pick anything about Jesus, then his crucifixion is probably at the top when it comes to the event that happened or most likely happened. And mind you, it says that when Jesus was crucified, saints came out, rose from their graves, walked, and talked to people.
How you justify that as being like one of the most solid facts? Like, what kind of things kind of lean you in that direction?
Well, if you really want to get to the heart of it, you have to ask, how do historians know that anything happened? How do we know that Obama was elected president at one point? How do we know that Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address? How do we know that Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon? I mean, these are all, we can't, we don't have videotapes of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon, so why should we think so? And that's the kind of thing that historians always do. I mean, by their very nature, historians tend to be skeptical. Because you just don't, if you find a source that says something, all you know is that the source says it. And so you have to figure out, is the source right? And that's what historians do. They take the sources and they try to figure out if they're right. And
I wanted to stop here real quick because I want everybody to remember what he said right there, because I feel like later on,
I'm wondering if I made a mistake when I said that he spoke to people, but there's several accounts of the death of Jesus. Now, one of them, we have Matthew, and it's chapter 27. I'm going to share the link in the chat. I'm going to be together. So, that's a KJV version, and we're going to go to the part where Christ cried. Starting from verse 46. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, This man calleth for Elias. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar, and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, Let it be. Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, he yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and earth did quake. Remember many times when I said there was an earthquake, what we will call an earthquake, and I also said what we will call an eclipse, but anyway, and the rocks rent. And the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So, in the meantime, we're going to look to see if it's on some other gospel that they spoke to people. I'm talking about the saints that rose.
and it might bite him in the ass a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll point out that like everything he said up to this point is correct in the terms of like he's describing what the mainstream consensus is, what most of his peers think, and that is an accurate representation. So if you actually want to know what the mainstream view is, but notice he hasn't at this point yet gotten to giving the actual reasons why that is a correct position, which is what you were specifically asking, and I assume he's getting there. So
in a roundabout way, yeah.
Okay.
So biblical scholars do the same thing as scholars of the Civil War do, or the scholars of ancient Rome do, or scholars of the Middle Ages do. They look at the kinds of sources that we have. They try to figure out if there are events that are mentioned in the sources that are plausible to begin with. You know, is there something like so crazily implausible about this that it couldn't have happened? They look to see if you've got multiple sources rather than just one source. You know, if you got one source, well, okay, but I mean, you know, maybe the person made it up. So if you got multiple sources and these multiple sources all say the same thing and they didn't rely on each other, you know, well, that's better than if you got one source.
Crucial point, independence. At least he mentioned it as methodological fact, but yeah.
Yeah, and
you have to establish independence before you have multiple sources. You can't just count up sources. Like every copy of the Bible is not an independent corroboration of the Bible, right?
Right. Exactly.
And also people quoting the Bible or people who could have been. You do have to establish independence, and that is actually one of the steps that I think gets skipped. There's a lot of hand waving in Jesus studies where there's this assumption that we can just assume there's independence, but it's actually, that's what he just said, is you should be skeptical, right, until you have evidence, and you should be skeptical of independence always, especially if you show like temporal relationship. You know, Josephus is writing decades after the Gospels started circulating, so even if you believe the Testimonium Flavianum was written by Josephus, you still can't argue that it's independent of the Gospels. And there's even actually more evidence that the Testimonium Flavianum specifically is dependent on the Gospels. But even apart from that, even if you didn't have that information, if Josephus never says what his source was, and you know that source, one other source is circulating and could have been as accessible to him as anyone else, then you cannot establish independence. And that's why I think there's a lot of times historians for Jesus try to multiply, like loaves and fishes, try to multiply sources out of thin air, defying the standards that we actually employ in the rest of history. That we would not do that. We would actually be shrinking the sources down insofar as if we cannot establish independence and dependence is entirely possible, then we can't use this as independent corroboration. We can't use it as multiple attestation. And a lot of stuff in Christianity falls apart once you start applying that principle. And I think it's important to point that out, that he's agreeing with that principle here, but I think he drops it when he gets to other things. So
yeah, he does. And one position that was communicated to me by a certain Dead Sea Scrolls scholar at one point was that you can just because there are like sources like the Gospels that definitely depend on each other, that doesn't mean that individual items within those testimonies or those books isn't like independent. And so I'm just kind of wondering what do you think about that? Because I think the argument that they would probably levy is that, well, yeah, sure, the Gospels all depended on each other, but the sources behind the Gospels, individual pieces of that are independent.
Right. So this goes against what he just said about skepticism, right? Like, if you don't know, you don't know, right? So this is probably one of the most fundamental rules of doing history. If you don't know, you don't know, right? That's it. So you can't just say, well, it's possible, Matthew says Jesus was born in one town and Marcus says he was born in another. It's possible that Jesus that was born in Bethlehem and he has an independent source for that. Now I choose that example because it makes fun of the entire procedure that they do, because that's exactly the opposite of what they would do. As soon as you mention Bethlehem, they'd freak out and say, no, you can't argue for Bethlehem being true. That was obviously made up. It's like, well, but by your own logic, if it's possible it's an independent source and genuine, then maybe it's actually true. But the reason is that's an invalid method. Possibly does not get you to probably. The possibilitor ergo probabilitor fallacy is one of the most common in Christian apologetics. It's sadly very common in secular Jesus studies. You can't get from possibly to probably. The only way to get to probably is with evidence. So if you're going to say that there's something in Matthew that's only in Matthew, and you want to say that has an independent source, you need evidence for that.
All right, so probably he said, if you don't know, you don't know. I was busy reading, and it appears that I made a mistake. They appear to the saints that rose from their graves, appear to many. But them talking, I did not find it, so it appears that I made a slight mistake about that. It's important to correct yourself. So, summary. I ain't going to be long, but if somebody wants to comment about this PhD, Dr. Richard Carey is saying that scholars invented the text of the Bible, then feel free by all means. Because each and every day you have everybody and their mama saying that we have this, we have that. We have that manuscript, this manuscript out there. They're going to talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're going to talk about so many damn things. But the reality seems to be a bit more obscure. But it's okay if nobody comments. I understand. I understand completely. You live and you learn. You learn every day. 4th century in the Greek language. Those are the earliest Bibles. Oh, there was another part, but I forgot to take notes. It was on the first video that I played, and if you take the time, it's half an hour long. Dr. Richard Carrier talks about, fragments, manuscripts, which is like, 1 or 2 sentences long, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, beware when people say, oh, we have hundreds of manuscripts, but hey. So what's interesting for the black folks who claim to be Israelites is to them, what's interesting is for them to explain how they ended up being people from Canaan who actually spoke Greek. MF Dread, any chance you can use a webcam, please? Oh, thank you. How you doing, brother?
Hey, greetings. So I appreciate the scholarly approach to the information. That I think is what needs to happen around these types of conversations, because people build their entire life, their livelihood, and their belief system around that information. So it's good that we approach it this way. I've kind of gotten to a point where I avoid this conversation with believers, and I'm more so just looking for information for myself, my own understanding. So one of the things that stood out to me was that they talked about being able to establish the independent sources. I think that's really important. And then one of the things that stood out to me that the other guy mentioned, I guess he was the Bible scholar that was for Jesus. He mentioned that if they can find an event that took place, then that corroborates another event in the crucifixion. And that I don't think is a scholarly approach, because in the same way that Harry Potter or any other novel today might reference a real event, that doesn't make the rest of the story true. So I think that's one fallacy that he went with there. I don't know, did you catch that detail?
Yeah, you were just breaking up at the end. You were saying that if you have, I think you gave the example of Harry Potter, and you mentioned that it would be a fallacy, but then you were breaking up at the end.
Yeah, so the one scholar, the scholar for Jesus, he said that they can find. Ehrman. He said they could find events that really took place that are referenced in the Bible stories, and that corroborates the Bible story. But I don't think that's a scholarly approach at all, because I think that's his major pothole just in that one conversation. Because, like, I use that example of Harry Potter, that that story might mention some events that really took place, or there might be some other fantasy novel that mentions World War II. That doesn't make the rest of the novel or those other events real. I mean, there's fantasy novels based on all sorts of historic events that are just not real. So I don't understand why he would take that approach as a scholar.
Yeah, it's but I guess that's why he got blasted by Dr. Richard Carrier, notably after he wrote his book, Did Jesus Exist? It seems like he kind of changed direction. Sometimes, I was wondering personally, like, did he get tired of being criticized by Christians? But you gave the Harry Potter example.
Maybe.
I've been using the Spider-Man example. You can have a Spider-Man comic book, and they can mention some historical people. It doesn't make the the Spider-Man story true. But at the end of the day, when people don't have any records, all they have is talking points. So Those are the talking points that we hear. And someone like Garfield Reed, he's been using that a lot. I remember, for example, when he was streaming and he said, well, the Kemet people, they using Kemetic writing, but then they don't want the Christians to use Christian writing or Jesus writing. Those Jesus writing are not contemporaneous, but
Well,
go ahead.
No, that's too easy of an argument to shoot down, and I think you're using that as an example to say the same thing. It's too flimsy that anybody that will call themselves a scholar would even try that approach. So one of the things that I've been referencing frequently lately is a lecture from Yale courses. It's Introduction to the New Testament or maybe it's the Old Testament, with Christine Hayes. But she's a scholar that does a good work. But it's on Yale courses on the YouTube channel. It's Introduction to the Old Testament with Christine Hayes, and she talks about the multiple sources and how there's like the J source, the P source, the E source, and how you can tell where each source comes from. And I think that series of lectures, I think it's 26 or 27 lectures that she does. That series of lectures gave me more perspective on the Bible text than anything else I've studied thus far. Just on her work and what she referenced, I think anybody who's curious about the Bible and the validity or historicity or the way it's written, if you want to learn about the way the Bible is written, I think her series of lectures is a good starting point. I don't think she's got all the answers, but it's a great starting point.
Yes, indeed. I think the P source stands for priestly source. J may stand for Jehovah. And the other one, I forgot E source maybe Elohim, but we have Percy today. Well, it doesn't show here, but this is Percy here. See that? Percy. How you doing, Percy?
Good to meet you.
Good, nice to
I'm
meet
just
you.
checking things out. I'm listening. I'm seeing where it's going. I just came.
All right. So, Brother MF Dread, how do you feel about that quote from Dr. Carrier when he said that scholars invented the text of the Bible?
I think it's a strong stance, like you said, but at the same time, I mean, he seemed to back it up, and it corroborates everything else I've seen in my studies. Like I said, I referenced the Christine Hayes lectures, and that fits with what she was saying. And I think the thing that stands out also is that he referenced, like, if you go back to a certain second century edition, then all you really have left is an edition. You don't really have the editorial work that the other scholars, and I'm assuming that it was scholars at that time that were doing the work. But if you get an editorial now, like I know Dr. Ivan Van Sertima did a lot of editorial work, you could find the work before he touched it. You could find the source and see all of his editorial work that was done. So you could see the before and after. But if we have an editorial where we get an edition that's released to the world, but there's nothing prior to that, then you're left with what he said was a reconstructed text, or you're left with an invented text. And I think that makes more sense now that he mentions the grading system where you have the A, B, C, D, because it makes it a whole lot easier for an empire or a leadership or a cult or whoever's in power to look at those 4 or 5 different possible translations, and then now they can pick and choose which ones best fit their agenda. So I think that's the problem that we have with modern text, is that at the very beginning of the translation, you already have errors, and then you have multiple translations, and now you have, the ABCD grading scale where it's possible that we've picked and chosen the complete incorrect translations to go together, where one word can easily have more than one meaning, or one sentence can easily have more than one meaning. And we're so far removed from the original text or the original intent that I'm not sure what we're even left with.
But we don't have any originals, so that simplifies the situation. But Percy, how do you feel about that quote that scholars invented the text of the Bible?
Who said that?
Dr. Carrier. I shared the link in the chat, so in your own time you'll be free to have a look. But he said that during the last stream about probably 3 weeks ago or something.
That some people got together, scholars or whatever. What time period is he talking about?
Oh, it's difficult to say.
He didn't get into it.
He mentioned Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus. Now they are both about 400 CE. But he talked about the process of the compilation of the Bible, and he was explaining that there's no original for us to work with, and that basically people did a reconstruction with texts that were basically full of errors, and at one point he did say scholars invented the text, and he used another term, but I forgot what it was. But I played it and I shared the link so people can go and have a look in their own time. But a lot of people fail to realize that like Bart Ehrman said, Dr. Ehrman said, we don't have any originals of the Bible. We don't have copies of the we don't have copies. We don't have copies of the copies. We don't have copies of the copies of the copies. We don't have copies of the copies of the copies of the copies, and so on. And I think he also said that there are more mistakes in the Bible than. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, no, finish.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think he said that there are more mistakes in the Bible than there are copies of it, but I'm just gonna clarify.
Oh, okay.
No, not that one, because Christianity is in the Bible. So, I think I have it in red. Errors, no mistakes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, just
so
one moment,
the two.
please.
Okay.
Just one moment, please. I forgot
So
how
they don't
it
have
worded
like
it.
archaeological sites where they.
Oh, okay.
dug
Hold
up
on,
the
hold on, hold on,
original
please,
writing.
please. Hold that thought. Now I'm going to share the link. The word wasn't mistake, but you will see. I'm sharing the link in the chat. Now here, let me just show. Now he said, that's the book Misquoting Jesus, page 10, Dr. Bart Ehrman. So he first says the reality is that we don't have originals. Then he says not only we do not have the originals, we don't have the first copies of the originals. We don't have copies of the originals, or copies of the copies of the copies of the originals. What we have are copies made later, much later in most instances. There are copies made many centuries later, and these copies all differ from one another in many thousands of places. Now he said that these copies all differ from one another. And he added, as we will see later in his book, these copies differ from one another in so many places that we don't even know how many differences there are. They cannot even tell you how many differences there are. Possibly it is easiest to put it in comparative terms. There are more differences among our manuscripts than there are words in the New Testament. But feel free, brothers. But I think the brother MF Dread wanted to say something first.
I think I had mine is a quick question. So the Codex Sinaiticus and the Codex, what was the other one?
Vaticanus.
Vaticanus. So what is the relationship of those two texts to the Ethiopian Bible? Because I've always heard about the Ethiopian manuscript being the oldest.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, but I never heard of any dating of this so-called Ethiopian Bible being the oldest Bible in the world. I don't believe in it's not knowing, but I don't believe that. I've never read anything about the dating of the Ethiopian Bible, so I kind of leave that alone until people present something.
No, maybe that's why that's possibly why he didn't mention it. If there's no.
Oh, I don't think that's I don't think the scholars roll with the narrative that this is the oldest Bible in the world. But people online and a lot of black people, they like to say that, because they want to put themselves in the mix of the Abrahamic belief system. So when you bring up this Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus, and you let people know that this is 4th century and this is Greek, then we have the Ethiopian Bible. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then why is it that the oldest text that we can reference is in Greek when all of the people, places, and things in the text that are supposed to have occurred are all in a different language other than Greek?
It's a good question. I would just say, the Greeks came up with the stories, what I'm saying, or they were probably inspired by stuff that were going on, but talk about writing, if we talk about text, but they're the one who brought it forth. Now, okay, we will have, some fragments, because we're talking about Bible, we're talking about full Bible, so yes, there are texts, running around here and there, notably the Dead Sea Scrolls, but Jesus is not mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Bart Ehrman says it, what I'm saying. See, hold on. See. Oh, what's going on? Okay. So which book is it? It's in Did Jesus Exist? He says that Jesus is not mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And we have some apocryphal writings, so they can choose what they want, but they will ultimately leave out some other texts, And for those who wonder what apocryphal writings are, those are basically books that did not make it in the final cut of what we call the Bible. But along those texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of people value have those other texts as well.
Those are the DVD outtakes.
Exactly. If you want a comparison, those are the extra footage, or director's cut and okay, it's too long. Your movie is 4 hours long. It's too long for the movie, for the theater, so you have to cut it and make it shorter. So, but I don't mean to make fun, of anybody's religion. I'm just saying, just trying to, break it down so people can have some comparison.
The quote that you read about copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies and whatnot, that sounds like a mild example of life imitating art. Because in the Bible itself, in those stories, you have characters that are writing stuff that's not going on at the same time that they're alive. They're writing about stuff that they say happened like thousands of years ago and stuff. So yeah,
yes.
and the whole thing that we're told is that, well, it's coming from God, so we can take it to the bank.
Yeah, a lot of people think that what we're reading, as it was happening, people were just, writing, taking notes, you know what I'm saying? And when it comes to Islam, they just believe that they memorize all of it and then they pass it down verbally and it never change, you know what I'm saying? But we have the Hadith, which talks about, things that used to be in the Quran that has been abrogated, if I pronounce the word correctly. And they also talk about some verses that were lost in Sahih Bukhari, which is considered the most reliable collection of hadith. But, that was just a sidebar. So, yeah, people take it to the bank, take it for face value, and consider that this is the word of God, / inspired by God, and it is infallible, and there's no mistakes, there's no contradictions in the Bible,
Well, isn't it that much more? And I guess I'm phrasing it like a question, but I'm just thinking out loud. Isn't it that much more ingenious to write a story and give it validity? You can infuse validity by fitting in some economic and political events that might be happening at the time, or something that happened before. Or you could, if you're trying to write a really good story and make it believable, and that years from now people are going to say that the story really happened, you could slide in some events here and there and try to make it more believable.
Well, Believable. We have Jonas, who spent several days inside of a well. He starts off early with a snake speaking to a woman, and I think it's just the
Got the
smackdown that they
donkey
put.
speaking to Balaam.
The donkey, he did what, brother?
Talked
Is it
to a
the
guy named Balaam.
yeah?
The
Is
donkey
it the
opened
guy who said
because
like
Balaam was like
what?
beating the
Wow,
donkey.
you hitting me and all
The
that,
donkey didn't
Yeah,
like
you know.
it.
So yeah, we have and so many other things. Um, so they put a smack down. They told people you're gonna get down and lay down, and people chose to get down. You know what I'm saying? And over time, then okay, I guess it's valid. Many people believe in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I've I gotta go in a minute, but I got one more quick question that you may be able to help me out with, because I've heard a lot about the idea that camels are written into parts of the story where archaeologically there's no remains of camels in the area at that time. Like camels don't show up until much later. And I'm trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out if is that a real claim, or is that just someone, making a joke about the Bible? But is that real that, there's mention of camels in the Bible before camels actually would have been there?
All right. Well, I'm not sure there's mention in the Bible. I'm definitely not qualified to answer that question because I don't know about camels, whether camels were there or not at that time. So I would rather hear what some expert or specialist, some PhD has to say, or somebody has some credentials in I guess uh, zoology or in and any field that specialize in that kind of question. Myself, I'm really not in a position to answer. That's really out of my lane. So, but anytime there's a claim, it's always interesting to find out who said it. Because online there's a lot of stuff that's being said, and even today, TikTok being one of the most influential and most used and visited application or social media. Because there's not only the app, this the website. There's a lot of videos and claims are made, but there's no there's no footnotes, there's no name of scholars, and not necessarily even the name of an author, and there's a lot of claims are made like that, and we cannot even verify those claims. But so yeah, so it's always good to know, who said it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that feedback. I appreciate your time. I'm gonna get out of the way, but you keep doing what you do. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace.
Peace, brother. Yeah, but that's a good one for me, Percy. Scholars invented the text of the Bible. I'm like, all right.
I remember having many years ago having a debate. It was stuff about the Bible, and asking for evidence and certain things and whatnot, and they'd come back with scripture, and I tell them, if I'm asking for evidence of the existence of Spider-Man, you can't come to me with a comic. Yeah. I told them that writing is evidence of writing. That's it. Until you can find like some archaeological, something that you can get your hands on out of the earth and whatnot, writing is just evidence of writing. And the example that I gave was that without any writing at all about like if you take papyri away, there's no writing about ancient Egypt and whatnot. What do you have? A whole lot. A whole lot that still shows you that those people existed, and that place, place existed. Those people existed. If you take away writing when it comes to the Bible, what do you have?
Ruins. And they say, well, we believe this may have been the kingdom of David. It wasn't really a kingdom as we understand it today. It was more like a neighborhood, like a block, but probably, that's what it was, and Dr. Cowley talked about, probability, you know what I'm saying? But like he put it, if you don't know, you don't know, but people don't know, and because it's possible, they're acting like, okay, That's most likely what happened. But there's so many things possible, But yeah, there's a fair bit of books that I want to read about Christianity, from different scholars, but I have to prioritize. I cannot do it all. So right now, I'm more focused on the studies, digitology, but there's a fair bit of books that I want to go through. But Bart Ehrman, I like his writing style, because he has a lot of strong quotes. He kind of gets to the point. Um, and the quotes that he have, a lot of them are easy to remember, you know. So that's what I like about his books, Now I thought the Jesus exists was quite strange, the claims made over there, the conclusion. But hey, it is what it is, he's done a lot already to help many people. He's not the only one, but he's one of the most popular when it comes to the New Testament. So nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, But his books were used a lot by what we call mythicists, what I'm saying, and maybe somehow some way he took issues that I don't know what happened, but it is what it is. But yeah, there's not many things. There's not many things. They have been searching, and it's mainly faith based. It's mainly faith based. But you speak to them, they swear there's evidence. You know what I'm saying? So I remember that Jehovah's Witness person that I was speaking to, and she kept sending me links, and I think I talked about it. Links to the Jehovah's Witness website about different topics. And it reminds me sometimes you speak with people, and they will send you some links to some article or some videos, but you don't necessarily have the time to read the whole article or find out the whole video. Like, why don't you take the time and give me the quote that you want me to know about? You know what I'm saying? And Simon Hotep was like that very early on. You know what I'm saying? Giving name of author. I remember. I think I was asking about the happy rule. Because back then it was claimed that the happy rule were the Hebrews. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, you the name of author. You Campbell done. Well, that's the name of author. I would like to know the record. And when it comes to the Bible, he said, well, they had to exist because they wrote the text. So Spider-Man had to exist because they wrote the text, But all right.
Writing is only evidence of writing. That don't tell you who wrote nothing.
Slowly but surely we're gonna get there. Then it's up to people to make a choice, But we have, this field, I call it theology, but some people like to give it other names. There's another quote, but it would take me time to find it. My timeline. It's another PhD. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it. But on my timeline, but he was talking about those religious studies. And I thought it was an interesting one. I'm scrolling through as I speak. I'll probably share the link to the video as well. But I took the time to quote the dude. Way more so. You know what? I'm gonna make it more interesting. Okay.
Oh, you got your YouTube all bright like that, man. I stay in
Oh,
dark mode.
oh yeah, you can change it. You can change it in a setting somewhere.
I mean, it's not bothering me. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's good for the environment when it's in dark mode, but if a web page is white, then it consumes more electricity. So way more than I expected. Dr. Wesley Muhammad, the aliens of the Roswell crash were Asiatic black men. Okay, do your
And
thing.
he talked about stuff like that.
Yes, Wesley Muhammad. Now, I'm gonna try. Oh, that's Umar Johnson who posted a picture of some underwear that a lady sent to him. Let's hope it was a lady. This video is no longer available.
What? Umar, what?
Yeah, missed something.
School ain't nowhere in sight, but he posting pictures of panties, man. Umar.
Oh, NASA, the Louvre Museum. That's the main entrance of the Louvre Museum.
I haven't told you, I've never been to a museum in my life.
Really?
Really?
Damn, brother, you're missing. You're missing. I have a lot of interesting stuff. Well, I may not find it. I know I posted it a while ago, but it wasn't too long ago. Maybe I should have made a video about it. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Because I don't think I put it in my notes. I have a file where I put notes from the books I go through, but because it was from a YouTube video, I think I put it in my timeline and left it, left it pushing. But I thought it was very interesting. Actually, I have his book on my list. He was talking about, religious study. I think he was gonna be soon. It was from Myth Vision, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
It's a shame we cannot search within the timeline. I think I'll find it. I don't know how long it was. I think he talked about what is biblical Greek. And it's funny because, they don't talk about biblical English or, people talk about biblical Hebrew indeed, but, now, take that with caution, because he said, what is biblical Greek, but maybe he said, what is biblical Hebrew?
Are the Greeks even mentioned in the Bible? I know the Romans are, but they came after the
Oh,
Greeks.
I don't know. I don't know if they are mentioned like that. I don't know. I wouldn't think so. But who knows?
I don't remember them being even mentioned in the Bible.
I'm not sure if the Greeks are mentioned in the Bible indeed. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying I'm not sure. Let's see. I put here. Oh, you know what? I put this here. Damn it, was that? I don't think I'll find it. I made a video about it. Maybe I passed it. I was talking about those people who come with the conclusion. I mean, they already have the answer, and they're asking like they're looking for the stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, he said that this is not a scientific method, and I totally agree. But you know, who am I? That guy is a PhD. I don't even remember the name of that scholar. I think I'll find it. Never mind. I'm sorry. I made everybody wait. Couldn't find the stuff. Find it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I made everybody wait for that, and I couldn't even find. I don't think it goes that far back. Don't think it goes that far back. Wish, you know, I left Facebook alone, but this shows to me that maybe I should use some other social media where I can search. Usually, when I find something interesting, I make a video out of it, but you know, I don't do it all the time. I don't do it systematically. Oh, I ain't gonna find it. I ain't gonna find it, unfortunately. Dang. Oh man. Please believe it, LOL. I'm gonna let you have the last word, Percy.
Oh, it's over.
Was not the most entertaining 15 minutes. Come again?
15 minutes? 15 minutes?
No, like the last 15 minutes, you know, I don't know how long I took to look for the stuff, but maybe it was less than that. Maybe it was more like, I would say between 5 and 10 minutes. I hope it wasn't longer than that, you know, but hey, I was eager to share the dude. But yeah, he had great issues with the biblical studies. I forgot exactly how he worded it, but you know. Faith-based, it's not scientific.
Yeah.
And we, you know, so we will hear sometimes about, you know, consensus and stuff like that, you know. If it's a faith-based consensus, I'm like, all right, fair enough, but that's not scientific. But they created the whole
people over there, people over there in Israel killing up a bunch of people and whatnot over some stuff that just copies of copies of copies of copies of copies.
Well, they did it in America as well, but you know, with America, it's like it's a done deal, it's a wrap. But yeah, manifest destiny, you know, and conquering other people's land. They're not the only one who did it, but you know. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day. I like that quote. Scholars invented the text of the Bible. Percy, thank you very much for attending. I wonder which name you're going to use next time, but you know, You like you're
I'll
versatile.
add something.
You're always versatile. So in the meantime, I'm gonna make the same closing remarks. I am gonna put the outro this time. So stay safe, stay healthy. If I'm allowed to, but oh, okay. I'm gonna hear from Sister Andrew. How you doing, Sister?
I'm doing well. How are you? Hey, hey, Percy. You gonna have a new name every time you come on here, huh?
Every time.
Hey, that'll work for me. You know, but you know, all the stuff that you're bringing out, Shaka. You know, it's you know, if people take time to do their research and stuff, it's not that hard to find. It's not that hard to find all these. There are plenty of people out there talking about how this stuff was hijacked and rewritten, and words that were in there that are being misinterpreted to be something else, like hell. You know, Hades, and you got Hades and Sheol and all that meaning hell, and they know that that's not true and all that stuff. But you know, if people don't want to take their time to do the studying, that you get what you get, all right? Unfortunately,
most of the time people don't want to study. They just want to go along with what they've been told, you know. And but the irony is, you know, we have cultural appropriation, you know, and we see black people doing it a lot. But then every time a white person's gonna, you know, wear braids or, you know, wear dashiki, you know, that, oh, look at this, you know. But hey, we're gonna get clarity through dialogue. Indeed, it's gonna take time, but you know, it's on us to be courageous, you know, and to be scientific, you know. I'm trying to be diplomatic, but you know, I feel like black people's problem, you know, I think that the number one problem is theology, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess when I use the word theology, you know, it slides, you know, it's like it's better than using the word that starts with the R, because it's personal, you know what I'm saying, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just, you know, it is what it, you know, we know that is what it is. You know, people want to say, you know, that their religion, you know, is better than somebody else's religion. I mean, every time you turn on somebody comparing themselves to somebody else's whatever, and it keeps the friction within the community. I mean, at some point, it's just enough is enough. Look at yourself in the mirror and decide, you know, really, is this what you want to be a part of? Because there's just so much of it out there that just misrepresents who we are. And every time you turn around, I mean, we don't, you know, we'll be accused of, you know, not loving your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, the proof was the other way around. They weren't showing any love for us or anything like that. And, you know, I mean, I don't know how people expect for even today. I mean, it's still going on today. That stuff hasn't changed in the name of their religion. They will say, you know, you're supposed to love everybody, but then their actions show something other than the words that come out of their mouth. And it's not so much what you say. People say a lot of things, but your actions speak louder and many times than your words. I mean, because they got those, you know, there's a story in the Bible where, you know, the father asked the sons to do something. One son said, no, I'm not going to do it, but he did. And the other one said, yeah, I'll do it, but he didn't. They said, who did the right thing? They said, the one who said he didn't want to do it, but he did. You know, I mean, but you know, it takes, and you can't just study within your own framework. You know, you get a Bible and you get all these other things that still kind of bring you back to the Bible. There's stuff that, you know, books I've purchased that were like beyond what my mind was ready to handle. I just put it on the shelf until I was ready to handle it, right? And then you go back and you're like, hey, then you hear it from other places. Like, I heard this already. Or I heard this already. And it, you know, kind of helps you, you know, move along in your journey. Because it's not easy when especially if you've been in it all your life, to come out and somebody say, you know, this stuff has been wrong or it hasn't served you well or whatever, right? So
it's true. It's good that you say that, because I was there, and when you are programmed, not to say brainwashed, you do not even consider anything that does not go along with your theology. You know, you feel like it's some sort of blaspheming or sinning, and it's just not easy, indeed. You know, but you know.
Yeah, because some people believe that, you know, some people say that once you say God said, that all of a sudden you're supposed to stop questioning, you know, And, you might be questioning that person about him. God said such and such. Okay, so what? I'm supposed to be scared now because you said God said. I mean, and that's what makes people fearful of saying inquiring any further.
Yes.
Because somebody said God said or God told me or whatever. Okay, so what? I'm still not supposed to question you because you said God. I didn't hear it. I don't know.
Yeah. We're supposed to believe it, and there are so many God said throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
But the God said of the Abrahamic believers, it's just it seems like it's stronger. Like they're the big guys on the block. You know what I'm saying? Particularly Christianity and Islam. But they both, directly or indirectly revere, the Hebraic, belief system, which in terms of chronology, according to their paradigm, is first.
Mm-hmm.
So they are somewhat of the originators, but
yeah, because even the ones who brought it to us, they considered us their burden. We were the white man's burden. They had to teach us this stuff and tell us this stuff, and not that we asked to be placed to be a burden, but they felt it was their duty to teach us just a little bit because they didn't tell us everything, right? They just spoke the parts, about slavery and all that stuff to keep you in line, but everything else they didn't tell you about. So, it's an effort and futility sometimes when you try to help bring people to another level of understanding. It seems like that sometimes, but then you just, you keep doing what you're doing and hope that somebody catches it and moves on from there.
Yes, and like you were saying earlier, they were not practicing what they were preaching, but in their book it says that you recognize a tree by his fruits,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we're seeing the fruits of those people who introduce you to this literature, to this Abrahamic paradigm.
Yeah, especially this last group, and that fruit is rotten and it tastes nasty.
But Black people seem to be some of the strongest defenders of this legacy,
That's true.
Legacy of enslavement, of rape, of murder, bondage, torture, negrophobia. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, you get you some rest because you look tired.
Yeah, I was going to say, but thank you. I appreciate you coming on. Just same with Percy,
All right, Percy.
I'm gonna make the usual closing remarks. Stay safe, stay healthy. If I'm allowed to, by the nature, I will definitely holler back at you. I don't argue, I steadfast. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If you do not think right, you will not act right. If you know better, you will do better. Do I to do a nature hotel.